I'm gonna tell you, Mountaineer fans, listen, I got a jewel of a guest on my show today. He's one of the most talented receivers to ever come through West Virginia. None other than number 82, Calvin Phillips, came out of Florida. You know, that's where he lived and was recruited from the state of Florida and decided to come to Morgantown, West Virginia. When I transferred in from Pitt, he was one of the first players to open his arms to me. He's a great guy, a high character guy. So I'm honored to have him on my show. Here he is, Calvin Phillips. My man, listen, before I even get into the whole thing, let me first say this. I'm humbled, blessed, and honored to have you on my show, Calvin. This means more than you know. And we'll get into a few different things in this 30 minutes, but thank you for coming on my show, brother.
Hey, Eugene, I appreciate it, man. I think, I've learned a lot over my years of college, coming in as a young teenager, thinking I know everything. And now I'm just understanding a lot of philosophy I learned from Coach Miller. I think this is definitely one of them where you give back, and you appreciate, you help your fellow man whenever you can. And I've watched you over the years, Eugene. Man, you're doing a phenomenal job.
Thank you, Cal. Thank you. I'm gonna share this with you. It's funny you said that, and thank you. I'm humbled, man. Thank you. When I think of Calvin Phillips, the first thing I think of is team player. You've always been a team player, brother. And I'm gonna share this with you. Over the years, I don't know if I had the opportunity to tell you this, so I'm gonna tell you now, with everybody looking and listening. When I first transferred to West Virginia and met you and we started talking, you didn't have to open your arms and embrace me the way that you did, but you did. And from day one, I always bonded with you from day one. And the interesting thing about that is we share the same birthday.
Yes. Yes.
So yes. I'm not sure if it's the Aquarius thing, but we share the same birthday. I'm humbled because of this. With the talent that we had at wide receiver at WVU, and to see how good you were as a receiver, one of the most talented receivers I've ever played with at any level. And not just, it's the truth.
Right.
My mama taught me never to waste words, just speak the truth. So to see that what you embodied as a player coming out of Florida, we're going to get into the hotbed of recruiting in the state of Florida, but what made you what attracted you to WVU, first off, and what made you not go to some of the schools in Florida to come and play for Coach Nealon?
Eugene, and I appreciate what you're saying. One of the things I've always, I was raised by the community. A lot of people didn't know that when I was being recruited. So there was a lot of great people in my life. But when I thought of West Virginia, I went to the University of Miami. They flew me. If you know the distance between West Palm Beach and Miami, which is a 30-minute drive, they flew me in. And my host was, at the time, Stanley Shakespeare. He was from Lake Worth High School, my high school, so he was a wide receiver there. Benny Kozar was a guest, and Snellenberger was the coach. And I flew in and I met with them, and they were like, "You'll play as a junior." And I'm thinking, who? A junior? I'm thinking, nah. I went to the University of Florida, Florida State, Michigan State, and I came home and I said, something, Calvin? My mom said, you need to go somewhere where you're going to be happy. You can't make everyone happy. These are going to be your 4 or 5 years that you need to be happy. So, I wanted to go somewhere where if things didn't go right, I could just jump in the car and drive home and said, I'm done with it. So my principal, David Cantley, said, hey, why don't you take a visit to West Virginia? Now, Eugene, I had no clue where West Virginia was, what West Virginia was. I'm thinking, okay, I'll take a trip here. And so when I got there, I was, Doc Holliday was like, hey, you'll love it. Man, I enjoyed it. I love that feeling of that, embracing people. And I said, something, this is for me. But I also knew, Eugene, coming back home to tell my friends I wasn't going to the University of Miami or Florida, it was going to be a very difficult sell-off.
But the beauty of it is, and I get it, because my path. I didn't start off at WVU, finished there, thank God. But that's what's hard now. How do you see recruiting now, versus when we were coming out? It's a totally different ball game right now. How do you look at recruiting now?
Eugene, there's a lot of stuff that's going on in the college sports now. I'm not a component of the transfer portal. I think, it takes away from the college experience, paying players. I just don't feel like that college experience. I feel like when you make a commitment, and that's one thing I've always lived on, when you make a commitment to do something, you work it all the way through the end. So if you say, hey, I'm going to sign with the University of West Virginia, then no matter what you go through, good or bad, you do those years there. You put that commitment, because commitment breeds something in you. It breeds that character in you. It breeds that responsibility, being accountable, not for you, but for the man next to you. And we'll probably get into that later, Eugene, because that's why we were so successful in 1988.
And that's the thing. And I'm glad you segued to that, because again, that's what made you as great as you were as a receiver, because you put the time, the effort, and the commitment into it for your brothers. I'm even going to speak to this even on the promo pick. I asked you to send me a and I'm gonna tell you right now, Calvin, I knew I was going to get a pick of the boys, of the fellas, you know what I mean? The crew, because that's the essence of who you are as a person. That's why I love you and respect you so much, because people don't really understand that C word, man. They don't understand that word commitment. They really don't. And I'm going to, speaking to that, I was raised that way. Apparently you was raised that way. Do you see where somewhere along the lines where we are in society today, I guess we may have lost that along the way? Do you feel?
I think, Eugene, we lost a lot of that. And, and you probably be the only one that would have caught on to that picture, because I believe that I didn't do this alone. This was a team effort. You see Grant, Harvey, you see John, all of us. And don't forget, before that crew, there, Robert White, Reggie Rembert, Hartley Dykes, Jamie Lamont. So we all played a very important role. But the reason I'm not coaching now is I don't see that commitment. I don't see that hard work. I don't see that yes, sir, no, ma'am, because those things were taught to me. And so what I did do when I came to college, I didn't make football bigger than life. See, I was bigger than life. And I tell people that all the time. When you lose perspective, you lose accountability, you lose responsibility. And those are things that I've always learned from home. And so, when Coach Miller was talking, and I would say, I can't. Every day I find myself doing something that he's taught me. And I start laughing, I'm thinking, but Coach, the right way. It was always team first. And I look at a lot of these teams now, Eugene, I said, if they would have did that when Coach Neal in there, they would have never seen the field again. And that was why we were so strong.
I'm going to tell you something, and I'm so glad that you're speaking to that, Cal, because every now and again, I'll touch base with Coach, just check on him, just to check on him. And we get a chance to talk about that a little bit. And at my age now, I realize, similar to what you just said, that man was such a high character individual. When I came in there, you live and you learn, and you know it all, or you think you know it all. Mm-hmm. We played for a guy that was a leader of men. And the older I get, the points of reference that you just made, those are things I learned at home. But it doubles when you go to a university and you happen to play for a Don Nehlen that also breeds that, speaks that, teaches that.
Mhm.
Those are things you can't dismiss in life because you need those skills. See, we had something that I don't think even now, the bond that we have now, when I text you or call you, you're always there, man. And I appreciate that. A lot of our teammates are that way.
Mhm.
That bond all these years later, to call you my brother, I mean that. You understand? Like the respect is always there. Do you think going through your process, even during your playing days, how was the transition from playing to jumping into when you retired from playing to jumping into business? Did you see a close parallel because of the sports background that helped you to become so successful in the business realm?
So Eugene, I'm going to tell you, there was a lot that I learned from college, friendship, uh, and I think the other thing that I want to say, I want to touch on it, which last week I watched Kevin Coke and you talk, and we talked about how teams are close, and it's not really that, it's not true. But that 1988 team was so close. There was a love for each other that no matter where I go at, if I go to Atlanta, I was in Orlando a year ago. Guess what? I picked up the phone, called Charlie Bauman. He was there in 10 minutes. We hung out the whole day. I was in Melbourne, called Roger Dixon. So after my playing days, because Coach Nehlen he wasn't trying to teach us X and O's. He was teaching us high school 18, 20-year-olds with egos, superstars coming in, how to become men and how to work together. So when I left the athletic piece and went into that professional realm, it taught me, I had everything down pat. Team. My work now, when I work, it's all about team. I tell my staff, listen, there's no I in team. We do it together. We win together, we lose together. If we're successful on a project, we're all successful. If that project failed, we all fail. So my leadership skill was developing with Coach Nehlen at that time. Didn't know what it was until later on in my life. So, I right now, Eugene, I'm the vice president of housing for the homeless. I provide housing for the homeless, have a staff of probably 10 to 12, and I have supervisors underneath me, and they all understand me. They said, Mr. Phillips, it's hard, but he's fair. So don't we always used to hear that from Coach Nehlen?
That's right.
Every time I think about Eugene, I just like, oh my God. But I'm so grateful and thankful to the Lord that I went to WVU. Now, I did some foolish things there too, but as I got older, I realized that when I was a child, I act like a child. When I'm an adult, you act like an adult. But I learned so many valuable tools that have made me successful in life. And so, WVU, Coach Nehlen, Coach Ford, Doc Holliday, I mean, those people put in my life for a reason.
Absolutely. No, listen, man. Everything you said, it warms my heart because, again, I had to learn it the second time around after transferring into WVU. And that was something that really opened my eyes again to coming into a place where it had people like Calvin Phillips. You understand? It had, I'm close to a lot of those, all of you really, but for some odd reason, I think Coach Nehlen did an excellent job of like-mindedness. Mm-hmm. He recruited people that he knew he can count on, but he felt like, you know what, there's something in that young man. Forget the talent, because we all could have went anywhere we wanted to go. Right. But there has to be some continuity in their character. So I always tell people, and they get upset when I say it, and we can definitely speak to it now, you win with character. period. You win with, even in business, you win with character. If you have people that's not willing to do what they're supposed to do and do it the right way, you're not going to be too successful. And you just spoke to it.
And Eugene, I'm going to tell you 100%. Discipline, character is what we were taught at WVU. I mean, I'm going to tell you, I look at the games every Saturday. I can tell a well-prepared team, a disciplined team. I can tell cheap shots. None of that was tolerated. So we was building character and discipline right then. Everybody knew that you better not take a cheap shot at another player. Do it between the lines. Slug it out. And Coach Nillen's favorite motto, punch. We get more punches than them. That's what it was. And so it was the most valuable lesson I learned in life was WVU, and the friendship I made and the people I met in West Virginia. You know, I see a lot of my friends, they talk about the list. I had the greatest experience of my life at WVU, not as a football player, but as a person, a development. I was being developed as a man at WVU.
Wow. And that's, which brings me to this point, which is excellent to even think back on. I cherish, the older I get, I cherish my years at West Virginia. The older I get, because I realize as I see, my son is coaching now. He's a DB's coach down there at Sacred Heart University in Connecticut. And he and I get a chance to talk about this every now and again. And that's one of the things that led him into coaching when he retired and got out of playing on the athletic side as an athlete, was he wanted to give some of the experiences that he learned back to some of these student athletes now. That's the thing that, again, that's when you know you've been prepared or you've been impacted the right way. Exactly how you're using the stuff that you learned at WVU and from Coach Neilan and that staff, you're using it now very successfully in the business world. I don't think you can, there's no words you can put to that, because we're seeing right now, when I watch college football now, the Don Nealons of the world are seriously missed. They're seriously missed. I don't know, honestly, I don't know what I'm looking at. I have to do the pre and post game stuff with Scholar, and we talk about this. And I know people are like, it couldn't have been like that when he played. So I'm glad that we can share these stories. It was like that when we played.
And you know something, Eugene, it's funny. If you think about when we talk about the C word, commitment, you know Coach Neilan could have went anywhere else. There were other schools after him. But Coach Neilan never left for the money or the fame. He committed to West Virginia. And that's what made us stay there too, because he didn't talk the game just to get more money. He stayed there every year until he said, hey, this is where I'm going to retire. This is what I'm going to finish my years at. So there, I mean, when you look at somebody like that, he didn't talk the talk, he walked the walk. So it was very easy to follow him and say, hey, listen, I'm going to play for this guy because I know he has our back.
Oh, a man's man. Absolutely.
Yeah.
When did you know, and I know this is a hard question, but when did you know personally we were going to go undefeated in '88?
So I'm going to tell you, this is funny, Eugene, that you asked that. Our senior year, everywhere I sat at, there was like 11-0. There was something 11 here. And then I started to think about the players we had on that team. We were deep at wide receiver. We were deep at running back. The line was deep. We had played together for 4 years. We knew each other blocks. We knew what our movement was. And coming into that year, I said, we got something good going here. I felt when Bino Cook started talking, I said, didn't want to jinx us and say, hey, we're going to go undefeated.
Right.
I knew we were at the top of our games and we were ready to play.
I knew when no one decided to go home that summer, and we all trained, everybody said, made the commitment to stay there and put in that work, I thought to myself then, like, this, we have a chance to be real special. because there was no, like you said, the continuity with the backs, with all of us understanding everybody had a role. Mm-hmm. The continuity with the receivers, everybody had a role. The continuity on the line, everybody had, and you understood that. You want to see your brethren do just as well as you individually, but collectively, we made the commitment together. I don't see that, unfortunately, in today's game. It's not the collective unit, it's the individuality of I. And I think that's probably where a lot of these teams, when they recruit certain caliber of players, I think the roles are reversed. I think they got it twisted. What do you think about that, Cal? Because that's what I see.
I go back to this, Eugene. It's the leader. The leader is Coach Nillen. He led, and the rest of us followed. And so I when I look at that, it's that you were going to be a team player or no player at all. And so, yes, we knew that Major Harris was a superstar. We knew that Reggie Rimmer was a superstar. But guess what? We played as a team. Right. We played to get the W, win or lose. And that all came from Coach Nillen, that we're going to be a team. A team wins game. And I always believe it's the leadership. It was his leadership, and then we followed. And so, yeah, there were weeks that each one of us had our big game. Your run back against Penn State, Reggie Rimmer, all of us, Major Harris. But we followed. He was our leader. And I think when you say character, it started. I remember Coach Nillen said, like, hey, the game is not Saturday. The game is Monday through Friday. It's it's what you do when others are not watching you. So, one of the things and just not to get off, but we watch West Virginia every week, and people that are not really football fans don't understand why we get upset. We don't get upset because WVU lose. We get upset when we see a team out there that's not well prepared. We know that a Don Nillen team, if we lost, we fought to the end, but we were as prepared as anybody else. And so, I don't want to jump ahead, because I know in 1988, people said we were out-coached and that we had to lose a game. But if you remember, Eugene, there's 2 games that we came out flat. You remember?
Absolutely.
Maryland, Notre Dame.
Right. That's right.
You remember Maryland jumped out on us?
Absolutely.
So,
and to be honest with you, we really didn't play that well in the first quarter against Rutgers.
Exactly.
Exactly. So he was upset because we were prepared, but we didn't put our best foot forward in that first quarter. It was like, wait a minute. We got to wake up.
As bad as we played against Notre Dame, we were still in the game. We had a great game plan. We had a great scheme. And so people say, Calvin, were you disappointed? I knew we had a great team. I don't know if I was disappointed that we lost. I was just disappointed we didn't play our best.
Right. That's the truth.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I concur with that, because I spoke to Tony Rice about 2 years ago, and and I said to him, I said, look here, man. Now if number 9 didn't get hurt, right, because it would have allowed us to carry out that whole game plan offensively, which everybody knows, if you know football, your offense helps your defense helps your offense, your special teams. It's all a collective piece. And when one gets hurt, the bottom line is we were too many three and outs, too many punts. Then all of a sudden your defense gets a little bit gassed. Things start to happen. You start to break down a little bit. It's all collective, right? And he laughed because he knew, I said, if we played y'all 10 times with a healthy Major Harris, we win 8 out of 10. That he was laughing. I said, so don't get it twisted. When you look at that ring, you better thank Major Harris.
Yeah.
Cal, man, listen, let me ask you something. because you did something for me. And we don't have to get into the name specifically, but I want to share this quick story with the kind of person you are. You helped a family member of mine many years ago, and you didn't have to do it, but you did it because that's just who you are. And I really need people to understand you've always been that. And see, that's the key. Like you said, the character that I speak of, like you said, when people are doing things when nobody's looking, that truly is the core of who they are. Right. And that's the core of who you always been. So again, I'm thankful that we are not only teammates, but brethrens. And at the end of the day, that you took the time. I know you busy. But you took the time to answer this call, to jump on my show, brother. It speaks to who you are. And I want to let you know I love you, I appreciate you, and I respect you immensely. In closing on this, I need to ask you a question that I really want these young student athletes to understand. When you speak about commitment and when you speak about what you're doing now in the professional realm, what advice will you give a student athlete that's trying to figure it out, what school should he or she go to, and what's the most important component of picking that school? What would you say to, what advice would you give?
I'm gonna tell you, Jen, it was for me that I always look back at what fits you. And so my parents always said, when you make a decision, you stick with it and you commit yourself to it. And so what I have always done and what I do now is I'll make a decision, I'll go back and I'll sit and I'll think on it, I'll ponder on it. I think I've always said God is first, ahead of my life. I always go to, when I need major things, I go to him. And then what I do is I compile a list of do's and don'ts. And then I weigh those options. And then I figured out if will this be the best option for me to be successful? And so if I feel like it's the best option, it's the right, and it feels right, then I'll go for it. What I'll tell many people is make it your decision. Don't let someone else make the decision for your life in the next 5 years. Be committed to whenever you make that decision. Be committed that I'm going to be here for 4 or 5 years, no matter what. That I'm going to work. You know, what makes champion is adversity, challenges. It's easy to say, hey, I'm going to transfer, I'm going to leave. And I think some of the other things at West Virginia is that we challenge each other every day. Right. We challenge each other. We wanted the best to the best. We wanted the best. We wanted to compete with the best. And I think that's what made us the person and the individual we are today. But I would just tell them, like, listen, make sure that you understand who you are, what you are, and your next 5 or 6 years in life for your future.
Wow. Calvin, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much once again. Thank you for coming on my show, man. Look, I'm sure that the parents, our fans, the young student athletes, they're going to get a lot out of this. I want my show to always be impactful and informative. And that's why I run the format that I do. It's not just about sports, but of course we have fun chopping up about sports.
Yes.
This is about life skills.
Yes.
So I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. Listen, I'm going to be in touch soon because I got to get you on here to do some celebrity pick'ems with this college sports stuff. I got to get you some of these games.
Hey, Eugene, I appreciate it, man. I love you also, man. Keep doing a great thing. Tell your wife I said hi, your son, and man, just keep doing what you're doing because you have a message for the people out there. They need to hear this. I know when you first started this, I think this show, what, 86, 87?
Yeah. You're
doing something right because you don't get past 5 and 6 without doing something right. And man, if you keep God in your life, you keep doing what you're doing, we'll be all right. Thank you for having me.
Got it, Cal. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you, my brother.
Take care, man.
Take care. Well, I told you, Mountaineer fans, Mountaineer Nation, That man speaks gives volumes of information with the type of individual that he is. And that's what he always was, on and off the field, a high character guy, very informative. And I'm hoping that you got something out of that interview, because he gave a lot of nuggets. He dropped a lot of knowledge. And I'm so humble and blessed to call him not only my teammate, but my Mountaineer brother. So I hope you enjoyed that interview with Calvin Phillips. You know, he's a great man. And like I said, I'm humbled to call him my brother. And I hope you got something out of it. Till next time, you take care. I'm Eugene Napoleon. This is Relatively Sports.